Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Weens from Performance High. And I am going to talk today about a topic that came across in one of my newsletters that I get. And I thought it was a really interesting topic. And so I thought I'd talk about this today on our live. And it is this concept of I'd give anything to improve, but not that. Or I'd do anything to improve, but not that. And it's kind of an interesting topic, right? I think we've all been in this situation. I know I certainly have in multiple areas. And it's basically this concept of, you're working on something. I'll use generic terms for right now, and then I'll put some specifics to it here in a bit. But you're working on something, and your improvement stalls out. You're not getting any further along, and you get frustrated, and then you start to look for answers, right, on how you can move past. Hey, Denise, nice to see you. Welcome. So your improvement stalls out, and you get frustrated, and you start looking for answers or ideas on how you can, push that performance forward. Hey, Yetta, thanks for coming in. And you start looking. Maybe you read a book. I've done that many times. You read a book on the topic. You start talking to other people. You start looking online for answers. Looking for anything and everything that can help you kind of push through this little plateau that you've achieved or that you've gotten to, where you've gotten stalled out. And, so you start to gather some information. Maybe you even talk to a coach. I know I've done that multiple times. Maybe talk to an expert on the particular topic. And of course, you get all these ideas on what you can do to change and what you can do to continue the improvements and move yourself past this little plateau. And then you look at those options, and then you don't do any of them. Or maybe you do a couple of them, but you don't really do the ones that make the biggest difference, right? And so it's that concept of, oh man, I do anything to change this. I do anything to get better, but not that one. And so it's kind of an interesting process, right? Basically, it comes down to, I think the sticking point for everybody is change, right? It comes back to the same concept of we just hate change as humans. It's funny because change is like the one thing that's constant in our lives. I mean, everything changes. Nothing stays the same. We know that. Where you are right now is not where you will be in 6 months, is not where you will be in a year. We have the smoke outside right now, and everybody's kind of bummed out about the smoke, and it's totally a bummer, yes, but you know what? In 3 months, it's not going to be here. So change happens all the time. And yet the one thing that we hate as humans is when things change, because somehow it's like right now, we get comfortable, even if we don't like it, we get comfortable with it. And, we get really, kind of out of sorts when things shift a little bit, but you know what? I mean, change is the one thing we have to do. So it is hard. It requires discomfort, whether that be physical and or emotional discomfort. And we all know this too, I think inherently, that where the discomfort lies, that's where the most progress can come. And so just stepping off into that area that brings you a little bit of, I don't really want to do that. That's probably what you really need to do. And so stepping off into that area, muddling through, working on it, eventually it gets to be more comfortable, and you work through that, and then it's kind of your new normal, right? Change requires breaking habits. I mean, we all have our habits, whatever they may be, whether they're good habits or not so great habits. We pretty much do everything in life according to some kind of pattern. And so changing those can be incredibly difficult. Oftentimes we want to change them, but yet we still kind of keep doing them. So figuring out how to shift out of a habit and create a new pattern can be really hard. And then, of course, that all sort of combines in this concept of your thought patterns have to change in order for you to adjust into a new area. And that can be particularly difficult. So my particular talk today is not necessarily on how to do all those things. I've done a bunch of stuff on change in the past, and I can certainly pull that topic back and do some more on change and habit forming and adjustments, that kind of stuff. But really what I wanted to just sort of bring up is this idea that we all do that. We all get to this place where we've achieved kind of a status quo, we've achieved an equilibrium, and we get frustrated with it. We want the change. We want to get better. We want to get stronger, faster, leaner, whatever the case, more efficient, whatever the case may be. And yet we're oftentimes presented with options to do that. And yet we say, oh no, I would do anything, but not that. So an example from my own life, I have a one in particular, which is I've been working on nutrition, my own personal nutrition for a few years now. I am going to be 52 in November, and yeah, that's right, 52. Yeah, that's right. I'm very much in menopause, and things are changing in terms of, how my body's responding to things and how it responds to exercise, how it responds to food. So I've been doing a bunch of reading and talking to people. I talked with awesome nutritionist Erin Green. I read a great book called Roar, which I think some of you know that I read that. I've got some information on that on my previous lives, if you're interested. But I've done a bunch of, talking to people and reading about nutrition and menopause and what to do and all this kind of thing. And one of the big things that has been mentioned over and over again is increasing protein. So as we age, particularly for women, we need more protein in our diets, less carbohydrates, more proteins. And I tell you, I have fought that. That has been like the number one thing that everybody has said. Hey, Carol, thanks for coming in. That's been the number one thing that everybody has said, and that I've read multiple places. And, I keep saying to myself, okay, how am I going to get more protein in my diet? I love my carbohydrates. I live for carbohydrates. I can just kind of get by. Well, at some point in time, you realize you just can't do that anymore. And so I finally have started to make some changes. I finally broke down and I got some protein powder because I couldn't really see I've been resisting that for months, years, I should say. I finally got me a protein powder so that I can start to boost up some protein amounts. I've started to eat more chicken and more fish and, all the good stuff that you're supposed to do, but I just haven't been doing it. And I've started to back down the carbohydrates. And I will say, I feel better. My body composition is changing a little bit. My workouts are feeling a little better. I'm feeling a little more resilient in terms of, not quite feeling so frail, that was really starting to bother me. And I think that's what really kind of tipped the scale for me in terms of making change. So, but it was a multi-year process. I mean, I've been trying to work on this particular thing of adding more protein for years. I would say probably 3 years now. And I've had many people tell me, give me suggestions, and I have taken none of them until I'd say the last 2 months. So it happens to the best of us. We all do it. An additional example that I wanted to bring up just because it's kind of top of mind is, my swim group, my 5:30 a.m. Tuesday, Thursday swim group at Axiom Park Center has been shut down obviously since COVID, and we are starting up again in October. And so it got me thinking about all those swimmers and the complaints, or I shouldn't say complaints, the frustrations that I often hear, which is, how do I get faster? How do I get to be a better swimmer? I feel like my times have plateaued off and I'm just not getting any faster. What do I need to do? And here again is this feeling of I would do anything. So tell me what to do, coach. And then you give them the suggestions, and some, a lot of times people don't want to take them. So here's my list of suggestions for all of you swimmers out there who are trying to improve but have not seen a lot of improvement recently. Here are a couple things to think about, right? Okay, here we go. 1, learn to breathe to your offside. So bilateral breathing. I can't even tell you the number of times I've told all my swimmers, you've got to bilaterally breathe. You've got to breathe to both sides. And the resistance that you get back is amazing. So lots of people don't want to do that. It's super uncomfortable, right? That offside breathing is really, really nasty when you're not used to it. So that's my number 1, learn to breathe to your offside. My number 2, put your ego aside and do one of 2 things, if not both. 1, move down a lane and lead it. Okay, so move into a lane that is technically a little slower than you and lead that lane so that you get the experience of being in front. And or move up a lane and hang in there. So maybe you move into a lane that's a little faster than you and you have to be at the back and you just have to hang on for a while. Both of those situations, both leading and following, create amazing improvements in your swim performance. So those are another 2 things that you can do to become a better swimmer. Both uncomfortable because now you're with new peeps, right? And you have to sort of build the new dynamic and you kind of have to figure it out and you're a little under stress because you're in the lead position. Hey, Suzanne, nice to see you. Now you're in the lead position or now you're in the following position, which one of those 2 may not be what you want to do. 3rd, have some discipline and pace yourself properly, right? So this is a huge one. We talk about pacing all the time in my swim workouts and my swim programs, and trying to get people to pace well and learn to stay on pace, which a lot of times means swimming slower than you want to swim or feel like your ego wants you to swim. Super important to be able to control yourself, right? So that's a control issue. So learn how to pace, learn how to have the discipline to pace yourself. Every time you get in the pool, have a plan to do that workout. What is your plan for that workout? And this could be, some of these apply to any sport, right? It doesn't, or any situation. Every time you sit down at your desk to get to work, what is your plan for your efficiency, right? Have a plan written out, detailed, stick to it, okay? Work on technique every time you swim. So not just sometimes, not just once a week, but every time you get in the water, you're thinking about technique, you're working on drills, you're trying to improve your form and function. Again, crosses all sports. And then finally, do a proper warm-up with mobility work. So we know that sports get better when we have more mobility, and each sport has their own specific mobility issues. Swimming, ankle mobility is huge, shoulder mobility is huge. If you're not working on those 2 things regularly, then you are going to suffer and you will kind of stay in the same place with your swimming going forward and not much will change. So I think the big takeaway, right, is just to kind of look at the areas where you resist. So when you've asked people for help, and it doesn't matter what the area, sports or no, if you ask people for help, and they give you suggestions on what you can do, especially if they know what they're talking about, on what you can do to improve. The areas where you really resist, and you go, ooh, yeah, no, that one I'm not going to touch. That's probably the one you need to do the most, right? We all know that. It's not rocket science. So just know that we're all in the same boats. Have some grace and give yourself a little grace because we all kind of do this. Change is hard, and just keep plugging along. And if it takes you 3 years, like it took me to finally increase my protein counts, then you just keep moving along with it until it finally hits you and you decide to make the change. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. If you liked it, please hit the like button, share it with anybody who you think might benefit from this. Follow along on Facebook, and I'm back to doing a live a week, so on Tuesdays. So I'll look forward to seeing you all here next week. Thanks. Have a great week, and I will see you soon.